Hey friends, hope you're doing well. I have a simple question I want to ask today. What's the very first CD you ever bought? What's the very first compact disc you ever bought? And I'm not talking about album like vinyl, not talking about cassette or 8 track or any other format. What's the first CD? The first one I ever bought, there's a reason I'm bringing this up, and I'll just say that the first one I ever acquired, I was fishing at an apartment complex on South Meridian in Indianapolis. And this is sometime in the late 80s. And I was fishing, making casts with a spinning rod. I hooked something and I started pulling it in. I pulled it in, and when I get it in, it's a compact disc, like in the jacket. It's U2 Under a Blood Red Sky. It's the Live at Red Rocks thing. I caught it on on a spinnerbait, fishing. That's the first CD I ever got. It had moss growing on the actual CD. And if you remember, some of you might remember, when CDs first came out, they were marketed as being indestructible and they would have a lifetime, I think they were guaranteed for life at first and then they kind of backed off from that, but they're unscratchable and all that. Well, this is one of the first ones. It was like a really early batch, and man, for something that had been underwater for long enough to grow moss all over it, it was in great shape. And I started scrubbing the actual CD, and I got the moss off of it, and I didn't own a CD player, so I kept that for a little while. But I was delivering pizzas at some terrible chain for a little while, and they had a deal. Had some raffle where they were raffling off a CD player for like a boom box, just a small boom box. And if you would buy tickets for like $1 a piece, they would give all the money to employees in need or whatever. And this was supposedly citywide. And I gave them $20, not thinking anything about it. At the end of the month, I won the CD player. And that turned out there was only like $40 or $50 given from the whole thing. So they probably lost money on it. I found that out way down the road. But anyway, I take the CD player home and I have a CD. And I put this U2 Live Under a Blood Red Sky in. And I already had this on cassette because I loved U2 back then. And I loved that era of U2. I put the CD in the boombox, the one that came out of a lake that had algae and everything all over it. I put it in. It played absolutely perfectly. It was flawless. And I played that thing. I had it for quite a while. I might still have it somewhere around here. But that's the first CD I ever acquired. Now, the reason I thought about this today is I just read that album, U2 Live Under a Blood Red Sky, recorded at Red Rocks there in Colorado, and we've seen the concert film of that forever. That was recorded 40 years ago today, and if that does not make you feel old, you were much younger than me, and I could not believe that was. I just kind of sat back and took a deep breath and thought, how in the hell where'd that 40 years go? And that same year, earlier, I think it was in February of '83, U2 released War, which is still my favorite U2 album. And I think, me personally, you don't have to believe this, and I think most people don't think this, I feel like they peaked right there. And I had October, and I was looking forward to War when it came out, and I absolutely loved that record. And really loved it. So I bought Under a Blood Red Sky when it came out on cassette, because I was buying things on cassette. I don't know. What's the first CD you ever got? How did you get it? Did you catch it fishing? Am I the only one that's ever happened to? I read today, I remember in Electric Co., the song off Under a Blood Red Sky, that Bono does the thing from Stephen Sondheim's Send in the Clowns. Like, why must I lie to myself when I need the crowds, send in he's doing the send in the clowns thing. They didn't ask permission to put that on the record. This is a major label release, but he's just singing this little part in there with some different lyrics, even I believe, and they released it. And Stephen Sondheim was like, "Hello, there's this little thing called copyright law you might be interested in," and he threatened to sue. And they settled on giving him $50,000 to go away, and the agreement was that they could keep whatever was pressed out there in the world, but all future pressings, they have to cut that section out. So I'm guessing if you have an original pressing of Under a Blood Red Sky, the live album, it's probably worth a lot more. I don't know how many they pressed. Maybe there's a ton of them out there and it's not worth more. I didn't know that until today, though, that Sondheim threatened to sue. And I actually got to play at Red Rocks once. And there was a festival out there put on by some friends of mine, and they were nice enough to include me in the undercard. So the headliners were the Flaming Lips. I believe they were the big headliners of the thing, and the Decemberists were on the bill. Black Rebel Motorcycle Club was on the bill. They were really, really good, and I got to play like a side stage there at Red Rocks. But I walked out on the stage, and it was really cool. The place has so much history, just to being there and looking at it. It's a beautiful, absolutely beautiful venue, and I played a side stage. I remember Tim Barry played the side stage too. I met Tim Barry that day, and remember he showed up in a van with his sister and his buddy, is it Josh? Man, I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. But the three of them showed up. Maybe it was four, actually. It was a guy that was running a small label and putting out, whose name I forget. But man, they were so cool. But they showed up in a van and got out and just seemed road weary and were down to earth as everything. Just really, really nice, fun people. And we hung out that afternoon. That's the only time I've ever been around Tim. I've seen him on social media since then. But they were great. They played. We had a nice crowd there. But I got to play Red Rocks. The Flaming Lips headlined, and the only time I'd seen them before that, they played at the Patio in Indianapolis on like a Tuesday night. And maybe it was the songs from the Satellite Heart. I'm trying to remember the name of the album. But I remember they showed up and set up and did their whole stage thing. This is a little club. It holds 400 if it was just completely packed, but 200 would feel pretty packed. But they set up, and then when the doors open, this school bus pulls up. And there was a bunch of hippie kids following them around on a school bus, like 50 or 70 of them, in this bus. They all came in and watched the show, and they were most of the crowd. There was probably only like 75 people there or whatever. But it was really fun, and it was really good. And that was my experience with the Flaming Lips. I'd never heard of them before then. And me and my buddy Todd Fox went to Oklahoma City like 2 weeks after that, I think, and we went around. We hung out in a couple bars, and we were asking people, "Yeah, man, do you?" We saw the Flaming Lips, and they were from here. I believe they were from Oklahoma City, and nobody had ever heard of them. I thought that was interesting. They were this band turnaround. So, but anyway, saw them at this tiny stage. It was fun. It was more of a guitar thing. But those of you who dig them know that they sounded different earlier, I guess. And by the time they were on the big stage there at Red Rocks, it was a different sort of show. And they came out and they set up their own gear before they played, which is pretty impressive. It's pretty damn all right. And speaking of delivering pizzas, didn't the singer keep his pizza delivery job for quite a while into the gig? I think that was the case, but anyway, I've already said more than I know about them. But I'm curious. Oh, I went and bought CDs later. I started seeing CDs at record stores used, and you could buy them for just a few bucks. I mean, I was still buying albums. I didn't really care about CDs, but you could buy vinyl for $1, just about anything that you wanted, unless it's some weird import or something. But you could find most mainstream albums, or sort of mainstream, anything that got a wide release back when. You could find them for $1 all day, or you could go to thrift stores and get them for a quarter. Quite a few good things because nobody was collecting it. There wasn't a resurgence, and you could find a lot of good stuff, and I did. So CDs weren't that big a deal to me, but I ended up finally, switching over and having a lot more CDs later. I think the first ones that I bought with my own money, besides that I didn't catch fishing, I think the first ones were, so I bought a couple Dylan on CD. I'm trying to remember what they were. I bought the Birds box set. That was pretty damn great. That's a great box set. I got the Muddy Waters box set. Yeah, I guess I was buying box sets on CD. Maybe it was a little more affordable. I'd find them used. And I'm guessing, yeah, I don't know why you could find those used back then, but you'd find like a Bo Diddley box set for $20. And I bought that. The Dylan bootleg series, when that came out, I bought all of that on CD, and I was just amazed that there were so many great Dylan songs that never made it onto records. I was just kind of blown away by that, how great all of that stuff was. I knew Bob was my favorite and loved his stuff, but when I got that stuff, the CD box set of the bootleg series, I just couldn't believe, wow, there's been this much extra stuff out there and I didn't freaking know about it, But I'll just leave it at that. I want to know what's the first CDs you ever got, and how did you get them? And I'll talk to you guys soon and see you somewhere down the road. Much love to you.